So we are in control flow and we're still looking at the range function, and the range function behaves as if it is a list, but in fact it is not a list. So let's go and print out range 10 and just have a look again at what it is, and it returns us back this object. And if we hover over the range method there, or the range function, it says return, let's hover over it, it says return an object that produces a sequence of integers from start to stop and so forth. In particular, this word sequence, it produces a sequence and it does this thing one by one. So let's just, we'll wrap this into a print statement just as such, and then we'll move on, and we could convert this to a list. So let's just take this same range function, or we'll make a list just like that, and we'll put the range function this time inside of our list just like that. So now we've typecast, we've converted our whatever was inside these brackets into a list, class list. So we could print this out and we get a list. So let's just hit a print statement on that. But if we were able to convert this to a list, it possibly wasn't a list before, it was something else. So could convert to a list. Now the thing about this is let's just put some little comments over here, escape. This is an object, and actually I'm going to take some text from the documentation here because it's easier to explain. It is an object which returns the successive items of the desired sequence when you iterate over it. So what does that actually mean, right? It means it goes through each item as is needed up to the point that it is required, and at each point it yields something back, and then it will stop. So it's kind of very memory efficient, and we say that this type of object is an iterable. So we say that this object is an iterable, and effectively it is capable of returning one object at a time. So it's returning one of its members at a time until the point that it needs to. So it's not taking up this big space in memory, it's just going and getting the next value in the sequence and doing that. So that's what this range method actually does, which is different to entering a whole list, for example, when we put it into a for loop. So the range method just keeps on generating one number at a time. So let's do a quick range again. So we can do let's do a quick range. So we can go for I in range and then say 5, for example, again, and then print I. We can do it as fast as that. We can run our code and we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But just to show that it is doing this, so it's generating this 0, then it goes and generates 1, then it goes and generates 2, and until it hits the end of its statement. But just to show this, we can use the built-in sum function here. So we can do sum, and this basically returns the sum of a start value until it gets to the end of any list that we had. So this range function is list-like, but it's not a list. And what it's going to do, what this sum function is going to do, it's going to iterate over each item until it gets to the end of the items. And in our case, we've set the value to be number 5, so we're going to go from 0 to 4, and it's just going to keep on adding them up. It's going to do the sum. So let's just do sum range of 5, and what we're expecting to get is, well, 4 plus 1 is 5, 4 plus 1 is 5, 3 plus 2 is 5, so 5 plus 5 is 10, and this odd 0 here is just going to be 0, so we should get back a 10. So let's just print, and we'll do something like the sum is, and sum of range, and we'll run our piece of code, and indeed we do get back the sum is 10. So this range function is returning back something called an iterable, and if I actually go over to the Python documentation, which is here. I do have it pulled up. So an iterable is an object capable of returning its members one at a time. Example of iterables include sequence types such as list, string, and tuple. So, but this range item behaves like a generator, and I can select right click and we can move on to see what a generator is in Python. But basically a generator generates each object until it reaches this yield word. So it's able to extract one item at a time rather than keeping it all in memory. So that's basically the sum of the under the hood of what range is and how it behaves.